It begins not with scandal, but with something far more haunting, a whisper. Not loud enough to shock, but just enough to stir something deep within us. A single photograph. One moment frozen in time, delicate yet piercing. Like a ripple cast across the surface of an otherwise still pond, it traveled from phone screens to news feeds, across continents and into conversations. There was no press release, no calculated publicity stunt, just an image. And yet, that image carried the weight of generations. In it stood Lily-Rose Depp, the daughter of cinematic rebel Johnny Depp and French music legend Vanessa. Paradis got in a still frame that seemed to speak volumes without uttering a single word. Her gaze locked directly with the camera. Not with arrogance, but with a knowing and understanding that she no longer belonged to just herself. Dressed in lacy lingerie, a portrait of femininity and quiet strength, Lily-Rose Depp didn't shrink from the lens. She met it head-on, as if to say, "This is me, all of me, and I am not afraid." And beside her, gently but powerfully present, was her girlfriend. Not hidden, not edited out. There was no coy positioning or coded caption, just presence, raw, real, and revolutionary in its calmness. There was no attempt to explain or justify the intimacy shared between them. That photo didn't demand attention, it commanded it. Without words, it carved out a place in pop culture, in memory, in meaning. The world, momentarily stunned, paused. Screens lit up, not with outrage, but with awe. For in that rare and vulnerable snapshot, something precious was revealed. A different kind of story began to unfold. One that had nothing to do with tabloid bait or shock value. This wasn't a celebrity scandal designed to break the internet. This was about identity, fragile, defiant, evolving. It was about the complicated beauty of legacy, how Lily-Rose Depp inherits it, how she resists it, and how she reshapes it to fit who she truly is. And most importantly, it was about truth. The kind that costs something. The kind that lives beneath the surface of glamour and gossip. Underneath the lights, the cameras, the inherited fame. Lily-Rose Depp was telling us something not just about who she loves, but about who she is. And she did it without fanfare. Just a photo. Just a whisper. One that's still echoing. Lily-Rose Depp never asked to be seen. Not like this. Not under the constant glare of a world that romanticizes and ridicules in the same breath. From the very first moment she entered the world, she wasn't just a child. She was a curiosity. Paparazzi didn't wait for her to grow up. They were there before she could walk, long before she could understand what a lens was or why it was always pointed at her. The daughter of one of the most enigmatic men in Hollywood, and a woman who redefined French glamour, Lily-Rose Depp, was born into a narrative already half-written. Johnny Depp, the rebellious heartthrob turned misunderstood legend, carried fame like a beautiful curse, a paradox wrapped in eyeliner and poetry. And Vanessa Paradis, the angelic songbird of Paris, moved through life with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly, untouched by the chaos fame usually brings. Together, they were mythic. And their daughter Lily-Rose became a symbol before she had a voice of her own. Before she could spell her last name, it had become iconic. Magazine editors whispered about her potential before she spoke her first full sentence. Cameras captured her learning to walk, not because she stumbled adorably like other toddlers, but because she was Johnny Depp's daughter. She was the little girl with the almond-shaped eyes and the old soul smile, unknowingly draped in legacy. Every small movement, whether it was the way she tilted her head or the light, quiet elegance in her smile, was photographed, analyzed, and adored by strangers. Even her silences were interpreted as statements, but beneath the mythology, beyond the soft light and expensive lenses, Lily-Rose Depp was quietly, carefully doing something few noticed. She was building something of her own, piece by piece. Frame by frame, choice by choice. She was never loud about it. She never needed to be, while others assumed she'd coast on her last name. She was crafting a different truth, one that didn't rely on nostalgia or inheritance. She chose films that made people uncomfortable, roles that didn't flatter but revealed, projects that weren't easy wins but meaningful challenges. And each time she stepped in front of a camera, whether for a fashion house or a film director, she chipped away at the expectations. With every photo shoot, every monologue, every bold appearance, Lily-Rose Depp was saying, "I am not your projection. I am not your princess. I am not your scandal. I am myself." There's something quietly radical about that, about a young woman born into a machine designed to devour identity, choosing to rebel not with rage, but with grace. Her resistance isn't in dramatic outbursts or reckless rebellion, it's in restraint. In choosing depth over hype. In choosing privacy in a world obsessed with exposure. In choosing to share only what matters, like that single, fearless photograph with her girlfriend. Because for Lily-Rose, every step she takes in public is a calculation. Every image, a declaration. And every time she shows up softly, powerfully, she reminds the world that she's not here to live out anyone else's story. She's here to write her own. The photograph in question didn't need to shout. It didn't beg for attention with scandal or spectacle. It whispered on. That whisper carried further than any scream could. It wasn't chaos. It was clarity. A quiet, intentional moment that felt like truth in a world obsessed with performance. There stood Lily-Rose Depp, poised yet relaxed, wrapped in delicate lacy lingerie that seemed to both reveal and protect her at once. It wasn't just fashion, it was armor disguised as softness. Every thread of that fabric told a story, not of provocation, but of reclamation. A statement, subtle yet fierce. This is my body, my love, my story, on my terms. The lighting was gentle, almost dreamlike. There was no high-gloss polish, no overproduction, just the raw intimacy of two women daring to exist without apology. Lily-Rose Depp didn't pose for the world's approval. She simply allowed herself to be seen as she is, vulnerable, grounded, unfiltered. And beside her, the presence of her girlfriend wasn't hidden in shadows or framed as a suggestive accessory. She wasn't a footnote. She was the point. Their closeness wasn't performative, which pure. Two souls quietly tangled together in an image that somehow managed to be both breathtaking and revolutionary, simply because it didn't try to explain itself. There was no slogan, no rainbow filter, no celebrity-style activism hashtagged for attention. Just love, just connection. Lily-Rose Depp wasn't trying to shock anyone. She wasn't interested in making headlines, although they came anyway. The world is still, somehow, stunned when two women stand beside each other with the kind of ease usually reserved for fairy tales. But this wasn't a fairy tale. It was real, tender, bold, honest. And that, in today's cultural climate, is an act of defiance. What made the image so quietly powerful was that it didn't ask for permission. It didn't explain. It didn't even flinch. It simply was. In that still moment, Lily-Rose Depp reminded everyone that she's not here to be molded by inherited fame or the fantasy projected onto her. She is not a character written by public expectation or media headlines. She is not the glossy Hollywood daughter, the French fashion muse, or the tabloid temptation. She is her own author, and that photograph was her turning a new page. So no, it wasn't about lingerie. It wasn't about sexuality packaged for headlines. It was about freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't need to roar. The kind that simply exists and, in doing so, becomes impossible to ignore. With that one image, Lily-Rose Depp said everything softly, defiantly, beautifully. The truth is, Being Lily-Rose Depp has never been simple. She has lived in a house built from dreams and haunted by headlines. Johnny Depp, for all his genius and charisma, has spent the last decade under a storm cloud of controversy. Accusations, lawsuits, a public trial that tore at the seams of his carefully constructed mythos. And through it all, Lily-Rose remained silent. Not out of shame or fear, but because sometimes silence is stronger than noise. Her life became a balancing act, honoring the father she loves while protecting the person she is becoming. That person, she's fierce, she's gentle, she's wildly intelligent and deeply private. In interviews, Lily-Rose has always chosen her words carefully, never giving more than she wants to. And yet, through her work and her presence, she's spoken volumes. Films like The King, Voyagers, and The Idol have shown us glimpses of who she might become. Actress not afraid to be raw, real, even uncomfortable. But none of those roles felt as revealing as this one photo. This simple, intimate moment with her girlfriend may be the most honest performance of her life. Not because it's theatrical, but because it's true. What the world often forgets is that fame is a double-edged mirror. For Lily-Rose, every move is watched, every relationship dissected. So choosing to share even a sliver of her love life takes courage, especially in an industry that still thrives on heteronormative narratives. By standing beside her girlfriend, laced in vulnerability and lace, she was not just showing who she loves, she was showing who she is. Not Johnny's daughter, not Vanessa's reflection, but Lily-Rose whole, complex, and unapologetically herself. And yet, this story isn't just about romance or lingerie or the inevitable flood of internet opinions. It's about visibility. About the quiet bravery of queer women who refuse to hide. It's about soft power, the kind that doesn't scream, but simply is. Because in a world that still makes headlines out of two women holding hands, this image felt radical. Not because it was provocative, but because it was normal. Beautifully, casually normal. And that's the revolution. Behind closed doors, Lily-Rose has lived through storms most can't imagine. The chaos surrounding her father, the scrutiny placed on her every choice, the pressure to be perfect while pretending it doesn't hurt. But still, she creates, she loves. She steps in front of the camera with grace and grit, knowing full well what it costs. And in this moment, this rare, intimate photos, she flipped the narrative. She took control. Not as a child of fame, but as an author of her own story. Her relationship, while private, has sparked conversations in homes, classrooms, and online communities. Young queer women who've been afraid to show who they are now look at Lily-Rose and see possibility. Not a perfect idol, but someone real. Someone choosing love in a world that often chooses hate. That is the quiet power of visibility. Doesn't demand permission. It simply exists, sand that changes everything. Of course, not everyone responded with kindness. The internet, for all its moments of solidarity, is still a place where judgment spreads like wildfire. Some called it attention-seeking. Others questioned her motives, her orientation, her timing. But Lily-Rose has weathered worse. And unlike many celebrities who crack under the weight of public scrutiny, she's learned the art of graceful resistance. She lets the work and the truth speak for her. Johnny Depp, ever the enigma, has never been one to offer the world easy answers. And yet, those who know him say he's proud. Proud not just of Lily-Rose's beauty or fame, but of her integrity, of her refusal to bend, of the quiet rebellion she carries in her bones. He knows what it means to be misunderstood, to be vilified and romanticized in equal measure. And in many ways, his daughter has inherited that same magnetism. That same impossible blend of fragility and fire, as Lily-Rose continues to rise. She's reshaping what it means to grow up in the spotlight. She's rewriting the rules, If that means posting a photo that makes the world pause, then so be it. She is not here to play it safe. She's here to live, fully, honestly, fearlessly. Because at the end of the day, this story isn't just about a photo. It's about the human behind it. The daughter who grew up too fast. The artist who walks between two cultures. The woman who loves without apology. And the future icon who's no longer just walking in her father's footsteps, dancing in her own light. So the next time the world reduces her to a headline, just remember, that photo wasn't a scandal. It was a statement. A whisper turned into a roar. A moment that reminded us all that the most powerful thing a woman can be is herself.